Stoptober. The 28-day Stop Smoking Challenge is back, and it's bigger than ever.
Perfect timing!
The two Mikes will be investigating just what it takes to quit in a series of intriguing, candid one-on-one interviews with sports celebrities who've quit the smoking habit for good.
It's a huge goal for him!
Join the thousands of people who are stopping smoking this Stoptober with the two Mikes on TalkSport. Come on, join in. Search Stoptober for all the support you need to stop smoking.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two Mikes on Talk Sport. It's all happening right now. It's half-time at Goodison Park. Ronald Koeman is not looking very happy after making 5 changes to his Everton side and dropping Wayne Rooney. We'll be talking to Leon Osman about what is going wrong up on the blue side of Merseyside. John Barnes is going to join us later from the red side because, of course, we're looking ahead to Newcastle against Liverpool, one of the classic fixtures in the Premier League calendar, and we'll see which part of Liverpool is going to be happier tonight. Porky's here, of course. I'm not sure if we're going to have to bring in some kind of medical assistance if Everton don't get a goal back. 08717 22 3344. Coming up, we're also going to be talking to Graham Hunter over in Spain as Barcelona have postponed their game this afternoon against Las Palmas after police fired rubber bullets at crowds voting in the Catalan referendum. Looks horrendous over there. We've also got another round of heroes and villains, and as it's Sunday, we've got the Porky Sermon for those of you that need some spiritual guidance. You're listening to the two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and we're in this afternoon at a very pristine time and a very apposite time because it's half-time up at Goodison Park. Mr. Parry, I'd like to say good afternoon to you, but it's not a very good afternoon so far for you.
Well, it's not. But you've got to be pragmatic about these things. You know, we're halfway through the game. Now, in our last home game against Bournemouth, the same thing happened. We went 1-0 down and won 2-1. And,
Yes.
you know, that was an injection of substitutes.
Yes.
Nasty in particular.
Yeah, but he started this game, didn't he?
He started this game. Wayne Rooney's on the bench, you quite rightly say. Lookman's on the bench, and he's another terrifically speedy player who could, I hope, inject maybe a bit of pace in the second half, if that's what Mr. Koeman thinks is needed,
Well,
right?
he said he was injecting freshness at the beginning of the game, so now he needs to inject more freshness. Let's go to Beaky, shall we? He's up there for us and give us a half-time report. Everton look a bit sluggish, Beaky. Very good afternoon.
Yeah, they do. I think that's partly to do with a well-organised Burnley side who are, well-drilled defensively. And once they lose possession, Burnley, they get players back in all the right positions and have made it very difficult indeed for Everton. It's been an even first half. Much more positive approach from Everton, has to be said, than the game against Apollon Limassol. But the only goal crafted by Burnley, who have looked the more dangerous team. The Clarets looking for their first Premier League win, by the way, at Goodison Park, and they've put themselves in with a chance of doing that after they scored on 20 minutes. It was a superb crossfield ball from the right to the left. It set up a neat build-up down that left-hand side, and then ball played in, smart shimmy and shot by Jeff Kendrick to put Burnley in front. Sigurdsson's shot early on was the best effort for Everton. Pope saved that, diving to his left-hand side. But Burnley, I think, are good for their lead. It's Everton 0, Burnley 1.
Beaky, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to Leon Osman in a minute as well. But I mean,
An
as
Everton legend.
As an Everton fan, you've got to be a bit concerned. I mean, we're watching Koeman in the first half there. He doesn't appear to be doing anything but kind of watching. And I know that that's sometimes what some managers do.
It's not, I mean, he's made the point before. He said, once I've, been with the team for 5 days at Finch Farm on the training pitch, once they walk across the white line, there's nothing more I can do.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's the case,
I don't think
actually.
that is the case, no.
I think the case is, we've seen managers and coaches down the years who might have taken that philosophy. We've seen others, like Jose Mourinho, famously.
And Antonio Conte.
Yeah. Jose Mourinho, when he famously first went to Manchester United as Porto manager and beat Manchester United, leaping up and down in the air with his raincoat on and demonstrating to his team. Absolutely right.
Issuing instructions as Jurgen Klopp does, as Pep Guardiola does.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Leon Osman and ask him because he'll be an absolute expert on
Certainly
this
will
subject.
be.
Leon, a very good afternoon to you, although not such a great afternoon. Not such a great afternoon if you're an Evertonian.
Yeah, hi Leon.
Yeah,
Thanks.
not so far.
Yeah. Go on, Ian. I mean, listen, mate, what I don't understand, and you will, is that when Mr. Koeman after the game midweek said, the players don't seem to be able to go forward and get forward and move with pace. Isn't that his job to tell them how to play that sort of system?
Well, it is, and I understand partly what he's saying about once they step over the white line. A player does have to perform. He has to take responsibility on his shoulders, make passes, be brave enough to try something, and if it doesn't succeed, take the criticism. But, to say once he sends them over the white line, he plays no part is ridiculous. I mean, I played under David Moyes for many years, and it was as if he was out there on the pitch with us, screaming at us for 90 minutes at the sideline. So,
and does that help, Leon? Does that help? Does that help a player to understand exactly the philosophy of the manager's trying to imbue into the heads of the players?
Well, I certainly preferred being on the far side of the pitch when he was shouting like that.
Yeah.
But it does set the tone. You realise the demands that the manager wants, and you realise if you're not doing what's desired, you certainly become aware of it.
Is there a problem, do you think, between... I mean, it's difficult to tell, I know, from looking at it just from the sidelines, but people have said that, he's a bit of a disciplinarian, is Mr. Koeman, and some of the players don't really warm to that. He doesn't really seem to be the kind of guy that puts his arm around some of the players' shoulders, and they sort of lack a bit of confidence.
Well, results and performances would have to agree with. Well, I keep saying we're lacking in confidence. Obviously the season beginning was a tough run. So to go through the games, City away, Chelsea away, to name just two, it was going to be difficult to pick up points. But having not done so, and in the manner of losing the Spurs game, it's really knocked the stuffing out of the team. And last season, if things weren't going well, there was a difficult run last season with 10 games without a win. But Lukaku was there. There was a goal-scoring threat in every game despite not winning, whereas at the moment things aren't going well, and there's no real goal-scoring threat. There's no real... It doesn't look like there's a clear idea of how the team are going to attack at the moment.
No.
That's a concern.
And the Burnley game, the Burnley goal, rather. I mean, there was a lot of Everton players in the box there, but not one of them sort of seemed to get anywhere near the ball.
No, and it came after a move of 20 plus passes from Burnley, and again, when you're at home and you're allowing a team to come and dictate play like that and score a nice goal at the end of it without making contact. As you say, you're hoping it's just a lack of confidence and not, players not being up to scratch.
It's a manager's job to put in confidence. Now, Leon, you've played in great Everton teams, including a team with Romelu Lukaku up front. What do you take to the speculation this morning that Everton might want to sign Andy Carroll?
Well, it's first I've heard.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. It's a speculation that's going around, Leon. Is that
it's in one of the papers this morning? Isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that means that it's now in the gossip sort of area of football and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm horrified by the idea of taking a Liverpool reject. But the long term point here is: did Mr. Koeman take his eye off the ball after Romelu Lukaku left? And should the priority have been maybe not 4 midfield players but a striker?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there, and the fact that we're now being linked with all due respect to Andy Carroll, I don't mean this in a bad way, but any old striker, we're getting linked with any striker that's possibly available. Shows that how desperate we are for a striker, and to know that Lukaku was going to be out the door in about Christmas time, everyone was well aware that he wasn't going to be staying, and you think that would be the number one priority with him being such a focal point of his team last year.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't know how much you know about the inner workings of the place, Leon, but obviously...
Well, quite a bit, because he did play there, for over 15 years, and he is an England international.
The reason I'm saying this is so that he has an opportunity to say, well, I don't really know, so that otherwise his word isn't taken as gospel, and he gets into trouble for saying something he shouldn't have said. Parry's very slow at times. Anyway. I think you worked that one out, Leon. No, what I was going to say is this guy's been brought in. Koeman was brought in by Mashiri's money. Mashiri presumably had quite a bit of influence in wanting to get Ronald Koeman, a man who was thought to be one of the greatest managers in the world. He's not turning out to be that way. I mean, do you think he'll get fired if this carries on before the end of the season?
Golly, that's a very difficult question, Leon.
It is, and it's a difficult one because to have got the man they want and to give him so much money and to give him time to mould the team and bring in players he wants, does take time. But, it's a results business that is today's modern football, and everyone demands results now, not in the future. And, the longer he goes without getting on a run of victories and bringing relative success, then the more pressure he's putting on himself.
That's right. Now, Leon, on the inside of the football club, you were there and, for so long. Tom Davies has come through. I love the look of this young lad, Lukeman. I mean, yes, it's great to bring young players through, but they're not being given an opportunity, are they? Why is Tom Davies only a periphery player today? He so excites me. He's a bit like you. He's all action. He's in the middle. He makes things happen.
I don't know how all action I was, but I'm appreciating that point.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a lot more action than the 11 players we're watching this afternoon so far.
There's no need to be insulting about this, right?
No, I will be as truthful as I can be.
Liam's a former professional. He's analysing it, with a professional brain, not swipe side comments from you. Liam, sorry, I'm saying Tom Davies I think is terrific, and I wish he was a starter.
Yeah, and he came in last season and proved he's very much capable of being a big part of the team. And young players in their development, they do need games, and to be in and out the team. They say you need to protect a young man, but for me, I think he's a big part of the club. He brings attitude. He brings what Evertonians want. The local lads showing real drive. And I know it's tough to ask to put the weight of what's going on at Everton on a young man's shoulder, but it's certainly the type of player the fans want to see on the pitch.
Oh, definitely. And you know what, Liam? I sometimes think that when you keep a young player on the bench and then you bring him on late in the game when you're losing, that's even more pressure because you're then saying, come and rescue it for us, son. You know what I mean? Rather than giving him a chance to start the game.
Exactly right. You think they can come back from this and get a victory, Leon?
I'm hoping so, yes. Fingers crossed. I mean, the first 20 minutes of the game, I thought Everton started well, better than we have done in previous games. But, as I said before, then it seemed to be lack of ideas, lack of a clear way of how to break Burnley down. And Burnley have been great away from home all season. The results they've got, they're going to be no pushover today, and they've really frustrated us at times. So, I think Ronald Koeman needs to give them a clear idea of whether we're going to be going for crosses or trying to thread through balls, and everyone needs to get on the same page. But we have got enough quality, and I think we need a bit of luck to basically start our season off.
I mean, just very quickly, Leon, because we've got to go. But is that sometimes confusing to a player if they don't have a clear strategy from the manager when they leave the dressing room and go onto the pitch? Is that a big problem?
Well, it depends. Yes, if you're lacking in confidence and everyone's playing off the cuff, and one player wants to run in behind, but the other player wants you to come to beat. The best managers I've played for give you a clear idea of how they want you to. Sure. If in doubt, this is what I want off you. That is more important when you're in pressure situations like Everton are at the moment. Yeah. At least you know what your manager wants, and this is the go-to default setting for another term.
Yeah, great. Leon, thanks ever so much for joining us, mate.
Thank you very much for joining us.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The Two Mics on Talk Sport.
We'll go to Beaky in a moment and find out whether Wayne Rooney's going to come on and save the day for Everton. If Everton fail to win this game, and I don't mean if they draw it, I mean if they lose to Burnley, I wonder if Koeman is actually going to be on his way out. But let's talk to Rupert Bell about somebody who won today, and that was, of course, Frankie Dettori. Rupert, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mike. Good afternoon, the other Mike.
Yeah, hi, Rupe. Great to hear from you, and particularly as you're going to bring us some fantastic news, right?
Well, yes. Well, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe is, I suppose, Europe's the autumn highlight for middle-distance horses, and Enable, who's been an absolute superstar this year, well, she has just put in a jaw-droppingly brilliant performance to win under Frankie Dettori.
Wow.
Beautifully ridden. Frankie Dettori, master of the big race. Talk about the draw being a problem for the horse, but he was very positive right from the start. Had her beautifully positioned coming into the straight, and then she just powered away from Europe's finest horses and made them look ordinary. And Frankie Dettori now, I think that's a fifth arc for him, making him the most successful jockey in the race. Enable is one of those performances that, from a racing fan, you go, wow, or a sporting performance. Frankel had the wow factor, but Enable, she has had a wow factor all year, and coupled with Frankie Dettori, trained in Newmarket by John Gosden, this is a terrific success story.
Oh, it's just wonderful to hear it. I mean, I regard Frankie Dettori as a Brit. That might sound a bit odd, actually, because he's Italian, but you know what I mean.
I think he regards himself as sort of a Brit.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, the pride factor, in the bars of Paris tonight when they all go back from Chantilly and about to get the Eurostar home, it's just magnificent. Just a magnificent sporting victory and a huge event, is it not, Rupert?
Yes, well, they're staging it at Chantilly. They chased it there last year and this year because their Longchamp is undergoing a major redevelopment.
That's right.
But there are, race French people don't go racing. It's Little Britain in Chantilly, so it will be very much seen as a home victory. She was sent off odds on favourite. And Frankie, you're right. I mean, he's basically lived in this country for probably nigh on 30-odd years.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just, married to Britain. You talk to his children, they don't sound Italian. I mean, loves it here. And the one thing about Frankie Dettori, racing struggles for names that people actually know about. Ever since he won 20 years ago, it was last weekend, he did his Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
And here he is now, still as competitive and as brilliant as ever. And that is testament to him. And bearing in mind, there have been setbacks along the way where he's fallen foul of authorities, but he's back in this second phase of his career, or the sort of really embracing it and enjoying it and reveling in it and proving what a genius he is on a horse when it comes to the big time.
Absolutely. Rupert, how did Ulysses present any sort of a threat today?
Well, yes, finished third. But what that proved once again is she beat Ulysses out of sight in the King George at Ascot in the summer, and she's done it again. She's franked the form, and that's what you want to see. You want to see consistency of performance, and she has done that. And she's had a long season. She's been running since April, and here she is putting in her best performance of her career at the end of the season. And that is a testament to not only Frankie's skill on her, but John Gosden's, the trainer's skill of enabling her to perform to this very high level consistently and better with every run.
One more.
And that's why we can appreciate...
You've seen the time.
Don't worry, Rupert. One last question, mate, because MG here, who's not really into racing...
we need to go up to Goodison Park.
Yes, I know. But I always thought Lamtara was an unbeatable performance in 95. How does it compare today?
Why are you going on about this?
Excuse me.
Don't tell me to shush.
Anyway, what I will say is, there has been some great arc performances.
Yep.
This will go down as one of the best, because very rarely do fillies win these races.
Exactly.
And she has left her mark on the race. And unlike Wayne Rooney, he probably won't leave his mark on Everton's performance today.
Well,
that's very nice, Rupert. Thank you very much.
I was going to say, Rupert, I've now realised why he wants to keep you on for so long. So we can't go for an update to Goodison Park, where Everton are currently 1-0 down to Burnley.
Well, I watched the worst 1-0 victory by Villa yesterday I've ever had to endure. It was the worst match. Somehow we won, but I know what it's like to watch a bad match, and yesterday's was one of them.
Well, at least you got a victory.
Well, this looks like another one. But not if you're a Burnley fan, of course. Rupert, thank you very much indeed. Sorry to rush you off, but it's a very short show we got here.
Stoptober with the two mics on TalkSport. For support and advice on quitting smoking for good, search Stoptober today.
Now, we've joined forces with Stoptober to get as many people as possible to quit smoking for the whole of October. Keep it up for 28 days and you're 5 times more likely to quit smoking for good. And over the next 2 weeks, we'll be discussing our guests' previous smoking habits and how they quit. We discussed my habits and how I quit last Friday.
Yep.
And right now, we're going to talk to a very good friend of yours and somebody that I've met, and I would like to call her a very good friend, but I don't know her as well as you do. Claire Tomlinson, star of Sky TV, and, of course, massive Tottenham fan.
Yes.
Claire, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Claire. Lovely to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
If you're an Everton fan, Mike.
He's thinking of taking it up.
Yeah, I am thinking of taking it up in the next 2 minutes, to be honest, because my nerves are shattered. I'm not sure how much of this I can take.
Listen, we're going to talk about the stellar
from the studio.
We're going to talk about another stellar performance by Harry Kane and Spurs in a moment. But let's talk a little bit, Claire, about when you did give up smoking and how you managed it.
Right. Well, I loved smoking. I never ever tried. I was never one of those people who thought I'm going to give up. I'm definitely going to give up next week, or I'm going to give up because it's New Year. Or I loved smoking. I smoked 20, 30 a day. I was a brand loyalist. I always smoked the same cigarette, and if that wasn't available, I didn't smoke. And then I got a really bad head cold in the summer one year, and I was out in Toulon with the under-21s. I worked for the FA. So I didn't smoke because I had this really bad cold, and I was all snotty and bunged up. And after 2 weeks, I just thought, well, Okay. So I phoned everybody that I knew, who I'd always said, yeah, if I want to give up, I can give up, no problem. So I phoned everyone so that I'd put myself under loads of pressure. And that was that.
Well, and as I was your boss at the FA in those days, Claire, I supported you magnificently, didn't I, in this terribly...
I think it was after you'd left, and therefore I was able to give up.
What do you mean? What do you mean? No. I think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
I tell you what I do remember, Claire. I remember meeting you about a year later when you'd given up, but it hadn't been banned in pubs by then. We were in a pub near Charing Cross Station, and there was some bloke on the table next to us smoking. You actually got up and told him to stub his cigarette out and stop this filthy habit. You went from...
No, I didn't. I told him to stop smoking over me. I have got no problem with people smoking if that's what they want to do, as long as they don't blow it in my face.
Yes, but don't you think...
Your memory is
So the trouble with Porky is, one, his memory is non-existent, but also, two, whenever he tells a story, and I'm glad to see he does it to you as well as to me, he always tries to make you look bad. I don't know why he does that.
Not at all. I'm making you look good because, of course, it's better if you don't smoke, and you were very, very persistent with this chap. But of course, you became then, didn't you, manic? The smokers who give up.
Absolutely, violently anti-smoking. I hate it. Because I have no idea how I used to like it so much, but I do. I do sympathise with people who smoke because I did used to enjoy it very, very much.
Do you ever get the urge to, have a cigarette again? Because
never.
Well, will you sure? Because you are a sociable lady. You like the odd glass occasionally after work and that sort of stuff. Does the urge never grip you?
No, never. Honestly, I hate it. I really just hate the smell of it.
Yeah.
I hate it if I've been around someone's house and, you come away with it on your clothes or in your hair.
Yeah.
I'm so vehemently against it now. It's ridiculous.
I found that. It's amazing how much you notice the smell of somebody who now smokes when and you don't realise that all my clothes used to smell like that. My house used to smell like that. It was awful.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it is. Okay. Well, listen. I have to commend you, Claire. You're a lady of very, very strong principles. What about Harry Kane? I mean, what more can anybody say about this magnificent guy?
This is the problem, isn't it? I mean, Mauricio Pochettino's trying to say every 3 days what a brilliant player he is, and he's running out of words. I mean, albeit that it's in a foreign language to him, but nobody can think of anything best to say. I mean, he was absolutely outstanding again yesterday, and what I think was a really nice touch was he went off on 85 minutes, something like that, and the Huddersfield Town fans stood to a man and applauded him off the pitch.
That's amazing.
It was a brilliant moment. It was because they just appreciated that out of nowhere he scored 2 just fantastic goals. He's so calm. He works so hard. 1 minute he's clearing off his line at the other end, and the next minute, he's available for a pass.
I didn't know his left foot was so good either. Didn't know his left foot was so good to curl a ball.
That second goal was incredible.
In midweek,
Yeah,
so
it was unbelievable.
He really, and by all accounts, I've not met him myself. He's an absolutely lovely boy as well. Really sort of down to earth and professional, very sort of kind and sort of caring, and goes out of his way to do things for people. A family man, polite, intelligent. And
he's also got a Jaguar F-Pace, which happens to be the car I've got, which is rather pleasing.
Oh,
as well.
really? Good.
Should we talk about cars, Mike?
Yeah. I was going to say, clinging on to a bit of glamour. He's got the same car as me. He's probably got 5 cars, and one of them is probably his F-Pace.
He probably has, but he decided to buy the car of the year. But I had it first. But I mean, never mind. There's no point in trying to see the envy and jealousy that exudes out of every pore of Mike Parry. It's shocking to witness on national radio.
I know, but he used to own a Mini Metro, didn't he?
He did, of course. He doesn't like to talk about that. He also doesn't like to talk about his broken down Mercedes that keeps getting punctures.
Yeah,
but that's another story.
That's not my fault. So, Claire, where do you see Spurs going this season? Because they're not considered to be in the big 3. So is Harry Kane going to have to look to his future?
Well, they're in the top 3 now, aren't
they? Shut up, Michael.
They're in the top 3 now.
This is the man who was saying, we are in the top 3. Absolutely, we are.
Yeah, you're not regarded as the top 3. The top 3 is United, City, and
was saying
Chelsea.
In August, Harry Kane was finished because he didn't get a goal. It's ridiculous.
Well, I never said that.
He scored 16 in his last 7 away from home.
I know, and he's going to.
His record is absolutely outstanding. 13 this month alone.
And people are going to come after him, Claire, aren't they?
They are. They are going to come after him, and so far he's going to stay with us because we are challenging.
Yeah.
Wembley's going to be a problem for us. It will be. Yeah. You can't follow a season where you're unbeaten at home with a season where you're not winning at home and be challenging. Not when Manchester United and Manchester City particularly, I mean, how outstanding were they yesterday, are in the form that they're in and are scoring, so many goals.
Absolutely.
So we have got to get that first win at Wembley. It will come. But we are playing every game away from home. And remember, we're also playing at a stadium that's lifting everybody else who bring more supporters than they probably normally would.
Yeah, no,
it'll be very interesting to see how many tickets West Ham get for the League Cup game.
It's absolutely
and whether they get the whole of the 9,000 allocation that I think we can give in terms of actual segregation, or whether Spurs say, no, actually, we don't want to give that many away, we want to sell them to the home fans. But all these are a factor. But it's what's what, and we've got to get on with it and not moan about it, get our first win and shut everybody up. Because I, for one, am sick of reading Wembley woe out on a Saturday night.
That's right, and look forward to your new home next year, which is going to be a magnificent stadium in itself. Claire, I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Thank you. That's Claire Tomlinson.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure was all ours. Claire Tomlinson, of course, a star of Sky Sports.
Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to have the Porky Sermon, and we're going to have heroes and villains as well. There's been plenty of heroes and plenty of villains this weekend, and I wonder what exactly is going to be played out after this Burnley-Everton result. Here's one from Simon. He says, "I'm hoping Burnley hold on for victory." Just to hear Mike Parry breaking down on air.
I don't do breaking down. I've just replied to that. I don't do breaking down. I'm a stalwart. Okay, stoic, stalwart. And there will be no breaking down.
Well, you may need all of that, of course. Now, right now, we've got a man who's probably more of a stalwart than you. He is, of course, John Barnes, former Liverpool and England and Newcastle player. He's going to look ahead to the game today up at St James Park. Of course, Mr. Barnes, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Yeah, hi, John. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, I'm an Evertonian, as you well know, so it's not much point in asking me how it's going, is it, really? I'll tell you what, let's talk about the game coming up, you know, at Newcastle.
Anything to avoid talking about Everton at the moment, John. We may ask you about that a little bit later on, but Rafa Benitez is going to be warmly received, I presume, at St James's Park, not just by the Newcastle fans, but by the Liverpool fans as well.
Well, hope springs eternal in all football, not just obviously the game, but of course that's why Mike keep the faith. Everton will come good. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I hope so.
But as far as today's game goes, yes, Rafa will get a good reception from both sets of fans, because Newcastle, after a bit of a shaky start, are doing well, and of course he's still highly thought of on Merseyside. So yeah, it's going to be a good day for Rafa.
It really is. And, of course, I mean, they're 8th and 9th currently in the league table. Newcastle could leap over them. I mean, Liverpool's problems have been exacerbated to some extent this year, haven't they, by the sort of the weaknesses in their defence. And while they can look great going forward, Jurgen Klopp hasn't quite got it right yet.
Well, it's more to do, and, a lot is made of Liverpool's defence. I think it's more to do with the way, and people have said this, the way they defend as a team. Yes, if you had the back four of the Chelsea of old, when you had like John Terry and Azpilicueta and Tim Cahill, and you can play a very attacking team, though you've got a very strong defence with a good goalkeeper. Now, if you haven't got, I'm not saying Liverpool's defence shaky, but that's not their strongest point. Then you have to play in a way that protects the back four, and I think they're such an attacking team with the midfield players driving forward and the front three driving forward that they really isolate the defence. So I think it's more to do with the way they play rather than just the four defenders and the goalkeeper.
Jurgen Klopp, I think, is a very charismatic man, John, and clearly the Liverpool fans love him. But the board at Liverpool do not seem to have this demonic demand for success which exists at Chelsea and Manchester City, who will take on a manager for 2 or 3 years, and if he doesn't come up with the goods in 2 or 3 years, he's out and somebody else comes in. I don't get that feeling that sort of pressure is on the shoulders of Jurgen Klopp.
No, but I think what's happened now, not just at Liverpool, but what happens now, if you look at the top managers in the world, and of course now Carlo Ancelotti's been stacked at Bayern Munich. Yeah. I suppose the teams who don't, the top 6 teams, let's say, if one of them doesn't do well, then maybe that manager may be under pressure. Yeah. But once you got Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Conte, Mourinho in the top jobs, if Liverpool or if any other teams were then to say we're going to get rid of our manager, which better manager is there to come in? There's none. Yeah. Because so Jurgen Klopp is the right man for the job, so he's going to be given that time. Yes. I think they're probably a little bit more realistic in their expectations as well. The Liverpool fans, yes, we finished 4th. I don't think they're now saying, well, let's now go on to 3rd, 2nd, and winning the league. They understand that, in this day and age, in the financial climate of football, it is going to be difficult. We have to get better players. So Jurgen Klopp is maximising the potential of that team, which means we finished 4th. And if we build slowly, and it'd be great if we could get the best players in the world, and then of course put demands on ourselves to win the league. But I think the fans are happy with what Jurgen's doing, but he has to get results, obviously.
And I mean, as far as what position he leaves Liverpool in at the end of the season, I mean, obviously they're in the Champions League. A lot of people are saying they're maybe the weakest of the Premier League teams in the Champions League this year in terms of whether they can, progress to the knockout stages and beyond. But I mean, what do you think the expectation is from the owners of Liverpool, where Liverpool should finish?
Well, once again, we have to be competitive to finish in Champions League positions. Now, I think in recent years, when people talk about the top four, for me, that means fourth. The top four doesn't mean... The top four really means first, second, third, or fourth. But in reality, when you talk about Man City being in the top four, it has to be one or two. Chelsea has to be one or two. Manchester United has to be one or two. For Liverpool, if we're fourth again, I would take that all day long. And of course, if we can then build on that going forward in terms of getting better players, which comes down to how much money we make by being in the Champions League, etc., then we can look in maybe 2-3 years to have a greater expectation. So once again, for me, if we finish fourth, I'll be happy.
OK, is there what I call a free money problem, John, in football? Because Manchester City have what I would, regard as free money from the state that owns the club, and Mr. Abramovich at Chelsea, it's kind of free money, and it's very hard for any other club in the Premier League to compete against that, isn't it? Manchester United do it through their commercial revenues, but Liverpool are somewhat in a bit of a wasteland there.
Yeah, I mean, Rafa said the same thing himself. Until Liverpool are able to compete financially, until anybody's able to compete financially, it's going to be difficult for them to consolidate and to do that year in, year out. Compete. Yes, on the odd occasion, like when we nearly won it with Brendan, we finished second. That will happen. But then you're talking about really looking to challenge every single year and demands to challenge every year. That comes down to money, because if you're Man City or Chelsea and you're not doing well, come January you can spend 200 million, 300 million. Is that right for football? I don't think it is. I don't think that, the way that football is. And I suppose we're from Liverpool, Mike, you and I, and of course, and as much as you're Evertonian, we like the Bill Shankly socialist philosophy of working hard for what you get.
Absolutely.
And, being able to
think you were a socialist, Porky.
No, I believe
you're a capitalist.
I believe in the working class man approach to football. But the thing is, the price of the world's top players, John, in the last 12 months has doubled from 100 million to 200 million, and that means every other club is even further behind.
But that's not the problem. The problem with the world's top player doubling from 100 to 200 million, because Neymar, regardless of whether he's worth it or not, that's arguable. But the problem you have with that is then you get average players who will cost 40 to 50 million pounds.
That's right.
So that's when it becomes difficult, because of course most people can spend 40 to 50 million pounds as the players Everton have done, but not many people can get the very top players and pay them the salaries. Not many teams. So unless you're a Man City or a Man United or I suppose a Real Madrid, Barcelona, the rest of the teams can't get those types of players. And if you can't get those types of players, how are you going to win?
Yeah, that is the problem. True. And just one final one, John, before I ask you for a prediction for the game today. I suppose if you're a Liverpool or a Newcastle fan, one of the hardest things to think about is whether Jurgen Klopp is going to be lured away by Bayern Munich or somebody else at some point, whether or not Rafa is going to be lured away to go somewhere else, depending on how much money he gets in the next couple of transfer windows,
Well, first of all, from Newcastle's point of view, I think if you talk about Rafa being lured away, it has a lot to do with how well Newcastle do. So if Newcastle does well, and Rafa gets lured away, it means Newcastle are doing well. Right. From the Jurgen Klopp situation, I don't think that Bayern Munich will suit Jurgen. I don't think he is the type of manager, and I don't think that would fit Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich and the hierarchy there do like control. With Uli Hoeneß and Franz Beckenbauer and people like that. And I think that Jurgen loves control of the club that he's at, which Dortmund gave him, which Liverpool will give him. So I don't think he'll be lured by Bayern Munich. And if he's not going to go to Bayern Munich, where is he going to go? That's a better fit than Liverpool. So I have no worries about it.
Okay. So what do you think his scoreline is going to look like today at the end of the day? Quite a big score?
I think there'll be chances in the game. Liverpool's problem is they create many chances, but they don't score many goals. Because they really haven't got a classic number 9 to put the ball in the back of the net, so it will create chances. I think that the pressure from the Newcastle fans, the Newcastle to attack, because of course, as much as when you play against Liverpool, you should defend deep and defend in numbers, because you can't take Liverpool long head to head with the attack that they have. As most of the top teams have seen, you look at the way, apart from the Man City 5-0, when they went out to 10 men, they've got a great record against teams who attack them. And if Newcastle play that way, it's going to be difficult for Newcastle. So I expect Liverpool to win. I think there'll be a lot of chances. I don't know how many goals, but I think Liverpool will probably win 3-1.
Great stuff. It's Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It's getting crazy up at Goodison. 94 minutes played. Pretty much the end is nigh. In fact, the end is not just nigh. It's now. The end is now. The score is Burnley 1, Everton 0. And I'm afraid Everton have nil point from this game. Porky's looking pretty upset about it. And I don't know what you want to say about it, really. I mean, is it time for Koeman to go? It's got to be the question everyone's going to be asking.
I don't think you can start speculating on that, seconds after
I think you can.
defeat.
I think this is exactly when you do it.
And the last time a manager changed at Everton were in the throes of a new investment plan with Mr. Mashiri coming in, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was very influential in bringing Ronald Koeman to the club.
Yeah.
Everton approached Southampton 3 or 4 times and approached Mr. Koeman 3 or 4 times, and he wasn't interested. And then eventually the price went up to what I believe is close to £5 million a year to manage Everton Football Club.
Yeah.
And by that stage, it was an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is...
I think the thing is this, right? I think we need to hear from Everton fans. I think we need to talk to Beaky
definitely.
about what's going on up there. But the question has to be, right now, if you're an Everton fan, is it time for Koeman to go? 08717 223344. Carlo Ancelotti's out there. He's out of a job. Why don't you just go and get him?
Burnley are up to 6th in the Premier League. It's the sort of position that Everton hope they'd be in by now.
Exactly
if not higher. The point is that Mr. Kenwright has always had tremendous loyalty to managers that he's appointed when he's been chairman of the club.
Maybe too much.
I mean, 11 years with Davy Moyes, and Davy Moyes did a brilliant job for us compared to what's happening now. And I think Mr. Kenwright was a little bit sort of, reluctant to tell Roberto Martinez he had to go.
Yeah, well,
but Mr. Mashiri came in. And the point is that it's a nightmarish situation.
It's a nightmarish situation. Just go to Beaky for the full-time report. Beaky, are the crowds talking about? Are they booing again? I mean, are they talking about? Is it time for Koeman to go?
Well, they have been booing at the end. I'm sure that conversation will go on in the pubs around Goodison Park for sure, because right at this moment they're looking a team which really has no shape about it and no real game plan. Everton 0, Burnley 1 it finished. The first Premier League win, by the way, at Goodison Park for Burnley. And I suppose they're unlikely to get an easier ride away from home for the rest of the season. The game really drifted towards a close, with the frustration in the stands being compounded by long-range efforts from way outside the penalty area and way wide of the target by Everton. Burnley scored after 20 minutes. They never really looked like conceding. The goal begun by a superb crossfield ball by Brady. It was neatly constructed down the left-hand side, smartly finished by Jeff Hendrick. Everton had penalty appeals turned down in 84 minutes, but it was about as close as they got to creating any kind of breakthrough, and the referee waved the appeals away. Burnley have now got more away points than they got through the whole of last season. And here we go. They go 6th in the Premier League. Everton 0, Burnley 1.
Beaky, thank you very much indeed. We do want to hear from Everton fans, please. 08717 223344. Is it time to ditch Koeman? Let's go now, though, to Graham Balaguer, because we've got a very busy show going on. We're only here until 5 o'clock. Barcelona playing Las Palmas over at the Nou Camp. Terrible scenes on the streets of Barcelona today. Barcelona, as a football club, we understand, wanted to postpone the game, Porky, but they were forced by La Liga to play it, but to play it behind closed doors. Let's ask Mr. Balaguer what is going on. Guillaume, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Guillaume. Thanks very much for coming on, Guillaume. I mean, obviously, very disturbing scenes that the world is looking at on the streets of Barcelona. Police vans driving at crowds, it would seem, rubber bullets being fired at them. I mean, it's not much of an atmosphere to play a football match in, is it?
I completely agree with you. And interestingly enough, Gerard Piqué agrees with you. And one of the vice presidents of Barcelona agrees with you so much that he's resigned on the decision to actually play the game. This is in the last few minutes.
Wow.
Yes, because during the game, really, because they are half-time, it's 0-0 at the moment, and quite clearly a lot of people did not want this game to be played. And in fact, Barcelona themselves told us about an hour and a half ago, say an hour before the game started, that they did not want to play the game. So we thought that was that. Then we realized that they didn't want to play the game, but they did not want to lose the points. And then the league said the only possibility for that to happen is that if the...
Guillaume? We seem to have lost Guillaume. His line's dropped. We're getting back in.
Back,
I mean, the point I want to ask Guillaume, Mike, is this: what happened to the 100,000 Barcelona fans who were flocking towards the Nou Camp Stadium?
Well, you see, I'm not sure that was the case, because the scenes on the street are so... I mean, he'll be able to tell us, but the scenes on the street are such that if you see the footage, there are lines and lines of demonstrators. There are thousands of people on the street.
Are you saying that the people were being stopped getting to the Nou Camp anyway?
What I don't know...
Because they wanted the game called off.
Well, I think that the city is more or less sort of under siege.
Yes,
I mean, there's a kind of siege mentality going the police are attacking. There's hundreds of people injured. They're talking about more than 300 people injured.
400 people, I think,
People
injured
are
so far.
running in all sorts of directions to get away from police firing rubber bullets at them. They're running away. And I find this rather ironic, by the way, because of what happened there not that long ago. The police vans are actually racing down the streets, driving at people, driving at crowds of people and forcing them to flee, forcing them to break up. So I don't think, I mean, you know Barcelona, I don't think it's the kind of city where you can just isolate the Nou Camp and say, oh, well, let's just go to the football.
No.
Because I think there's chaos going on in all sorts of other parts of the city.
There's a general feeling the game would be called off, and that's why I think people didn't go.
Well, Barcelona wanted that situation. Yeah, I'm sorry we lost you there. Porky's question is, I mean, were there a lot of people
heading
who were
to the Nou
expecting
Camp
to go to the game, or is the city kind of really kind of under siege at the moment?
No, because not only the season ticket holders of Barcelona wanted to go to the game. As you know, the Camp Nou is full of foreign people that want to go from other parts of Spain. And it really wasn't cancelled until... the suggestion that it could have been cancelled went on until about 35 minutes before the start.
So where were the 100,000 people, Graham, who were heading to the Nou Camp? I mean, this in itself could be a huge civil disturbance if those 100,000 people are not inside the football stadium. Are they on the streets?
Look, luckily nothing has happened, but they were in the streets. They were outside the stadium. And the most of the unrest has been localized around the polling stations. Police trying to take the boxes away and people stopping them. So it's not like the whole city is in disarray, but quite clearly, as you said earlier, it's not the conditions to play a football game. But once Barcelona realized that the only way for the game to be cancelled was that the Catalan police actually saying, look, we cannot guarantee the security, but actually they said the opposite. From that moment on, Barcelona had not a leg to stand on. So Las Palmas wanted to play it. The league forced them to play it. They didn't want to, but they had to.
And is that La Liga kind of decision, can it be described as a political one? Because obviously we're seeing, you know, what the Madrid government is saying, what the Spanish government is saying about this whole referendum, saying that it's illegal, that they have no business holding it, that the result of it will be null and void and it makes no difference to whatever happens in the future. I mean, is La Liga kind of influenced by that point of view, if you like?
La Liga is referring constantly to legality. So they're saying, look, there is no reason for us to cancel in it. If we did, it would be a political decision to do so. So they're kind of hiding themselves in that. But remember that at the head of La Liga, there is a far right-wing person who defended in his youth Frankist ideas. So they were not going to get somebody in La Liga saying, actually, we understand your position, perhaps we should look for a solution. So yeah, there wasn't by omission. By omission, I think La Liga had a political stand in there for sure.
Gwilym, I don't want to be melodramatic here, but I mean, you know the history of Spain better than anybody. Is this the most serious civil disturbance we've had possibly since the Spanish Civil War?
Well, we had a coup d'etat in 1981, and that was probably the biggest shock to our system. But
that was a military attempt at a takeover, wasn't it? But it failed.
Yeah,
because the king stood forward and said no.
Yeah, we don't know exactly the king's role. We know the public role. I'm not sure the private role, but that's a different story. In any case, quite clearly, it is a situation that has divided Spain. The annoying thing is that our leaders, both the Catalan and the Spanish leaders, they're probably doing it for their own particular reasons to appease their voters. But what it means is that in the streets, people have been, the 388 injured people.
Yeah. Well, they've been brutal. I mean, it seems to me, I've been looking at some of the videos, they've been brutalised by the police, aren't they? Completely
unexpected in a way, but maybe not so much in another way, that they went with so much force. It was ridiculous. What you had was people with their arms up saying, we are going to vote, let us vote, and we are pacific people, we are peaceful people, and the police just march against them in exaggerated manners. It's repression from the state, and what that means is that Spain is even more divided than it was 24 hours ago.
Yeah, it's a shocking situation. Guillaume, thank you so much for keeping us updated with it.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The Two Mics on Talk Sport.
Now, of course, because it's Sunday, there are some people out there who need some divine guidance. I think you may be one of them.
Spiritual guidance.
Actually, I think what you need to do when you leave here, rather than going to drown your sorrows in the usual place, I think perhaps you should seek out a place of sort of worship.
You might find me in a pulpit.
Well,
getting that serious.
I'm not thinking about a pulpit so much. It's just, just getting down on your knees and
Confession box.
praying for some kind of, divine intervention up at Everton before the wheels come off completely. Now, this is the Porky Sermon. This is where basically Porky will listen to me reading a piece from the good book. Yeah. A couple of verses, and this time from Micah, I believe, chapter 7.
Yes, I know
verses
it well.
1 and 2.
Yes.
And so you'll then put it into
which book again is it?
Modern language, Micah.
Micah, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Woe is me, is it what it says. Okay. For I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape leanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first stripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. That's not a net, by the way. That's a net.
Yeah. Well, what this relates to, and this is Micah chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits. Yes. Right. When did Ronald Koeman go on his spending spree?
In the summer.
In the summer. Thank you. So that's what this is all about.
That's the summer fruits.
So these two paragraphs have leapt out of the good book, as you quite rightly say, to give me an inkling of what's going on. The great leanings of the vintage. Now, what that's talking about is the quality of the players that he's bought. Okay. There is no cluster to eat. That means that when we've got the grapes together and we've got them, we're about to lift them to our mouth, we're suddenly thinking these don't taste too good. There's no cluster to eat means that they are sour tasting grapes. Sour tasting grapes are not good. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. That means that's now talking about the flock who are Evertonians. Yes. The flock of Evertonians who desired the first ripe fruit because the fruit should have tasted sweet and should have been what we're enjoying now. The good man is perished out of the earth. Now, this is a direct reference to Mr. Ronald Koeman. Yes. The good man is perished out of the earth means that the man who came to us, who's going to rescue us, who's going to take us like we were the Israelites across the Red Sea, part the Red Sea, take us into the Promised Land and out of the desert where we'd been wandering for 40 days and 40 nights, okay? Yeah. But it's a bit longer than that in Everton's case. It's more like 400 days and 400 nights, that we're going to enter the Promised Land. There is none upright among men. Now, what that means is that's a reference to the fans. We're not upright, we're on our knees. Now, it's not a good place for a group of fans to be on their knees. They should be upright. They should be standing with their heads high and they're
filled with pride.
And that's right, and their backs ramrod straight. Yes. They all lie in wait for blood. Now, this could be now a reference from the good book that patience is running out amongst the fans for Mr. Koeman, and that the blood is
baying for blood.
Not baying for blood. I mean, not directly blood. We're not talking about red trickling blood spilling out of veins. Okay. We're talking about the expression of we need change, okay? They hunt every man his brother with a net. Now, they hunt every man his brother with a net.
Yeah, they're looking for a new manager.
This is the reference exactly, Mike. You're learning to interpret the good book in the same way that I've always had the ability to do, and this could be exactly what we're saying. They hunt every man his brother with a net. We're now getting into the spiritual situation regarding Everton Football Club in the most extreme way. Yeah. It is worrying beyond belief.
It really is.
That is the sermon.
Thank you. The Porky Sermon. Thank you very much indeed. Now, just before we go, I've got to read you a few tweets, and then we're going to find out from Chambo who won the Heroes and Villains, by the way. He hasn't told anybody
pretty
yet.
Obvious to me.
Robert says, who won it? He says MG. So
no, you couldn't have said that.
He's just told me.
Must be a fault in your headphones or something.
This has been a great weekend for me. I've swept you aside. I won Winners and Losers on Friday. Yesterday I won the 1 Minute Moan, and today I've won Heroes and Villains. It must be an omen.
I cracked the quiz.
You've had one of your worst weekends ever.
I haven't. I cracked the quiz. I got all the questions right in the quiz.
No, you didn't. You got 12 right.
Out of 14. Yeah. That's a massive percentage.
Yeah, they were all easy.
You know what that is? You know 12 out of 14
Yeah,
is?
what percentage is that?
Well, 7 10s are 70, 7 4s are 20. That's 98. So 7 12s, 12 7s are 84. It's 84%.
Is it?
84%
Well, it's very
success.
good. I congratulated you heartily on that, but it was very easy. Even you yourself said they were very easy questions.
Yeah.
How about this? Mr. Stoddard says, Everton bought in 14 players during the summer. That undoubtedly takes a while to gel. And let's not forget David Moyes' second season. Well, you say that, but I mean, in this day and age, I'm afraid, when you spend 140-odd million, I'm afraid the owners expect a rather quicker turnaround, and they don't really have much patience. Robert says, how many points did Mystic Pork brashly predict Everton Everton would get from their opening games again, and I think there were quite a few. I think you predicted something like
9 out of 15.
9, I think it was more than that.
10 maybe.
John says Everton did exactly what Liverpool did when Suarez went and what Spurs did when Bale went. They brought in lots of average players. You know?
Well, these players shouldn't be average. You had plenty of time to go and find them. And, you know, I mean, one complaint which I heard from a former professional this morning who I was listening to was that they've got too many players trying to play in the same position. And this is all about the midfield again. Is Wayne Rooney trying to play the same role as Gylfi Sigurdsson, who's trying to play the same role as David Klaassen, who's trying to play the same role as Schneiderlin? I mean, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to people.
You know, his approach to the way that he runs the place is not exactly being warmly embraced by the players, and maybe he's lost the dressing room. Mark says this: I think the number of clubs Koeman has managed is an indication of his inability rather than his abilities, which is interesting.
Yeah, and also, you know, nobody really took very kindly to Mr. Koeman speculating last season on the fact that he'd eventually be Barcelona manager.
Yeah.
Does that give you the impression that Everton then is a stepping stone
to
his higher ambitions?
He's got a very high opinion of himself.
Very high opinion of himself. So one here, it says, and this is from John, I'm reading this out against myself. I remember Porky saying in August that Sandro Ramirez could be the Premier League's top scorer.
Yeah.
How's that going? Well, it's going very badly.
Yeah. Yes, it couldn't really be going much worse.
Yeah.
But there we are. The show's come to an end. We'll be back later on in the week. We are the Two Mikes. I'll see you later, Mr. Parry. This is Talk Sport.
Indeed.
Stoptober. The 28-day Stop Smoking Challenge is back, and it's bigger than ever.
Perfect timing!
The Two Mikes will be investigating just what it takes to quit in a series of intriguing, candid one-on-one interviews with sports celebrities who've quit the smoking habit for good.
It's a huge goal for him!
Join the thousands of people who are stopping smoking this Stoptober with the Two Mikes on TalkSport. Come on, join in. Search Stoptober for all the support you need to stop smoking.